Welcome back, everybody, to another deep dive. You know we love to get into the nitty-gritty here, and today we're looking at, well, time, Ashley.
Yeah.
We're diving into Daniel H. Pink's book, When? The Scientific Secrets of Perfect Timing.
Oh, a good one.
It is a good one.
Yes.
We're going off of a blog post that summarizes a lot of the main points of this book. And it suggests that, timing is not just this, abstract feeling we all have, but there's actually like a science behind it.
Right. It's not just a feeling.
So we're gonna dive deep into that today.
Yeah, timing affects our work and our relationships, even our health. And like you said, we just kind of go through life,
Yeah.
not even realizing all these forces are at play.
Right. And we talk about like circadian rhythms all the time. Like it's just a given that we all have these peak times for focus and energy dips throughout the day, but Pink kind of takes it to a whole other level in this book.
Absolutely. And, most of us are aware of those peaks and troughs, but he actually breaks down the day into three distinct phases.
Mm-hmm.
The peak, the trough, and the rebound.
Right.
And he doesn't just describe them.
Mm-hmm.
He actually gives guidance on what types of activities to do within each of those phases.
Okay, so let's get into the nitty-gritty then.
Yes.
So the peak.
Yeah.
That's like when we should be tackling our, most challenging analytical tasks, right? But what makes that time so special?
Yeah, so there was this study about college students and their test performance,
Okay.
and it found that students scored much higher on analytical tests when they were taken during their peak time of day.
Wow. So it's not just a feeling like there's data.
Yeah, there's actual data.
Data backing it up.
Yes.
So that's really interesting. So if I'm trying to work on a complex spreadsheet or write a report or something, I should really try to schedule that for my peak hours.
That's exactly. And it's not just about individual tasks either. Pink actually talks about how this applies to group dynamics and, how to synchronize your team.
Interesting.
So let's say you're trying to brainstorm or have a crucial decision-making meeting. It makes a huge difference if everybody's in their peak at the same time.
Yeah, that makes total sense. Imagine trying to have a really creative brainstorm session when half the team is in their afternoon slump.
Right.
You're probably not going to get the best results.
Right. And he suggests different strategic ways to synchronize teams. Things like scheduling meetings based on everyone's peak times.
Okay.
Even if it means, having the meeting at kind of a weird time.
That's a really practical takeaway.
Yeah.
That's something you can implement immediately. And it makes you wonder why more companies aren't doing this. But what about when we can't control the schedule? We all know the dreaded afternoon slump is coming. What's Pink's take on that? How do we deal with the trough?
So first he wants us to recognize that it's a natural part of our circadian rhythm.
Okay.
And fighting it is just counterproductive.
Right.
Instead, we should use the trough for activities that don't require as much focus. Things like answering emails or doing routine tasks or even just taking a break to recharge.
So instead of trying to force myself to write a blog post.
Yes.
When my brain is mush, I should maybe switch over to cleaning up my inbox or something.
Exactly. And that kind of work can actually benefit from that slightly less inhibited mindset of the trough.
Okay.
You're less likely to get bogged down on all those details and more likely to just get things done.
This is already making me rethink my whole to-do list.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've tackled the peak and the trough, but I'm intrigued by the rebound phase.
Yeah.
It sounds kind of like a second wind, but with a creative twist to it.
Yeah. It's that time of day when our energy starts to pick back up.
Yeah.
But it's a different kind of energy than the peak.
Oh, okay.
We're more relaxed. We're more open to new ideas.
So this is when we should be brainstorming or tackling those projects that require a bit more out-of-the-box thinking.
Precisely. And Pink even suggests scheduling rebound time for problem solving, especially if you've hit a wall on something.
Okay.
That fresh perspective can be so valuable.
I'm totally making a note of that because I can't tell you how many times I've struggled with a problem all day only to have the solution hit me when I'm relaxing in the evening.
Exactly.
It all makes sense now.
Yeah. And Pink actually gives examples of successful companies that have implemented rebound time into their schedules.
Oh, wow.
And it's amazing what a little shift in timing can do.
I'm starting to see how this whole book is a game changer.
Yeah.
It's not just about individual productivity. It's about understanding the science of timing and applying it to all these different aspects of our lives.
Right.
But I know there's more to it than just these three phases.
Absolutely. We haven't even touched on the concept of temporal landmarks or the significance of beginnings, midpoints, and endings.
Right.
Those are all crucial elements of Pink's framework.
Those all sound very interesting.
Yeah.
We've got to dive into those more. Okay, so we're back, and we're going to keep talking about Pink's when. And before we left off, we were talking about the peak, the trough, and the rebound.
Yes.
But you had mentioned something about temporal landmarks, and I want to know more about that.
Yes, temporal landmarks.
What are those?
So Pink argues that these are key moments in time that can really have a huge impact on our motivation and our decision-making.
Okay.
It's like hitting a mental reset button.
So we're not just talking about the time of day, but also like specific dates or events that kind of stand out in our minds.
Yes.
Okay, give me some examples.
So think about like birthdays or New Year's Day.
Okay.
Even the start of a new week or month.
All right.
These are all temporal landmarks.
Right.
That can trigger a sense of fresh starts and renewed commitment to our goals.
I can totally see that. Like, I always feel more motivated to get back on track with like healthy habits after a vacation or a holiday or something. It's like I'm giving myself permission to start fresh.
Exactly. And Pink actually cites research showing that people are more likely to make positive changes in their lives.
Okay.
Like starting a new diet or quitting smoking when they're aligned with a temporal landmark.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it's not just about willpower.
Right.
It's about strategically using these landmarks to our advantage.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
And these landmarks aren't just about starting new things. They can also be really powerful for ending things well.
Ending things well. Okay.
Yeah.
Tell me more.
He really emphasizes the importance of closure.
Okay.
Especially when it comes to projects or phases in our lives.
Right.
He argues that the way we end something can have a big impact on how we remember it and how it shapes our future motivation.
So instead of just letting a project like fizzle out,
yeah,
we should be more intentional about creating a sense of completion.
Exactly. And that could involve celebrating achievements or reflecting on lessons learned.
Oh.
Or even just having a formal like wrap-up meeting or ritual.
Oh. It's about acknowledging all that effort and giving it that ending it deserves.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I'm thinking about how like anticlimactic it feels when a big project at work just kind of ends with a whimper. Like we're missing out on that feeling of accomplishment and closure.
Exactly. And without that closure, you know, we're less likely to feel motivated to tackle that next challenge.
It's all connected.
Yeah.
This brings us back to like the idea of beginnings, midpoints, and endings that you mentioned earlier.
Right.
Pink dedicates a whole section to this.
He does. And it's fascinating how he weaves together the science of timing with the psychology of motivation and goal setting. And he emphasizes how crucial beginnings are.
Okay.
You know, that initial energy and focus can really set the tone for the whole project.
So if we're applying this to like the workplace, we should really prioritize those first steps.
Yes.
Making sure we have a clear plan and strong momentum from the get-go.
Absolutely. It's about leveraging those peak hours for brainstorming, setting those clear goals, establishing a strong foundation.
Okay.
It really sets the stage for everything that follows.
But even with like the best laid plans, we all know there's that inevitable midpoint slump.
Yes.
Lurking around the corner.
Yes, the dreaded midpoint slump.
Right. Pink doesn't sugarcoat this.
No, he doesn't.
He acknowledges that it's there.
He acknowledges that it's a natural part of the process.
Okay.
But instead of seeing it as a sign of failure, he encourages us to anticipate it.
Okay.
And use it to our advantage.
So it's not about avoiding the slump. It's about having strategies to navigate it.
Exactly. And he suggests using the midpoint as a time for reassessment and course correction.
Oh, okay.
It's a chance to step back, reevaluate our goals, and make any adjustments to stay on track.
This is making me realize that maybe those mid-project freakout moments aren't such a bad thing after all.
Right.
If we can reframe them as like opportunities for reflection and adjustment.
Exactly.
Maybe it takes away some of the pressure.
And Pink even suggests using the midpoint as a time to inject some fresh energy into the project.
Okay, how do we do that?
Maybe bring in new perspectives or brainstorm some creative solutions or even just take a break to recharge.
So instead of dreading the slump, we can use it as a catalyst for innovation.
Exactly.
And problem solving.
Yes.
I love that.
And it's not just about work projects. He applies these principles to all sorts of life cycles, relationships, personal goals, even our overall life journey. It's really a framework for understanding the ebb and flow of motivation.
Wow.
And using it to our advantage.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here.
We have.
Circadian rhythms, temporal landmarks, beginnings, midpoints, endings.
A lot.
But I know there's one more big piece of Pink's puzzle that we haven't touched on yet.
Yes.
Strategic breaks.
Strategic breaks.
And I'm guessing this isn't just about grabbing another cup of coffee.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
Just grabbing another cup of coffee. The way Pink talks about breaks is a revelation.
Okay, I'm ready for this revelation. All right, so we are back and ready to dive into this whole idea of the strategic break.
Yes.
Because I feel like this is something we all kind of struggle with, you know?
Absolutely.
We know we should take breaks,
Yeah.
but then we feel guilty or we feel pressure to just power through.
Right.
So convince me, why are breaks so important beyond just avoiding burnout?
Okay, so Pink argues that well-timed and strategic breaks can actually boost our productivity and creativity.
Really?
They allow our minds to rest and recharge so that when we come back, we're more focused and we actually have better insights.
So it's not about slacking off. It's like an investment.
Yes.
In our future performance.
Okay.
Okay, I like that. I like that idea. So tell me, what kind of break are we talking about here? What does Pink recommend?
So he suggests breaks that involve socializing,
Okay.
moving around and getting outdoors.
So we're not talking about scrolling through social media on our phones.
He says the most restorative breaks are those that disconnect us from technology and connect us with our physical and social surroundings.
So going for a walk with a colleague or grabbing lunch with a friend.
Exactly.
That actually sounds really enjoyable.
It is, and Pink even suggests incorporating what he calls micro breaks throughout the day.
Okay, what are those?
So these are just a couple of minutes to stretch or grab a drink of water.
Oh, okay.
Or look out the window.
So little moments of respite.
Exactly. And he says those can make a big difference in your energy and focus.
Yeah. This is making me rethink all my break habits.
Yeah.
Because I am definitely guilty of trying to power through the day and then just ending up exhausted and uninspired.
Right.
And he makes a really good case, I think, for being much more intentional about breaks.
Absolutely. And he ties us back to the concept of circadian rhythms.
Right.
So, we can time our breaks to coincide with our natural energy dips, like that trough that we were talking about. So instead of fighting that afternoon slump, you can embrace it as a chance to step away and recharge.
So working with our natural rhythms, not against them.
Exactly.
I love how he weaves all these different concepts together. It's like a holistic approach.
It is?
To timing that really encompasses, I think, all aspects of our lives.
Yes.
This has been a real eye-opener for me. I'm already thinking about how I can apply some of these insights to my own schedule and my habits. But for our listeners out there, what's the one key takeaway you'd want them to walk away with today?
I think the biggest takeaway from this whole book is that timing is not just about efficiency.
Okay.
It's about effectiveness.
Effectiveness.
It's about understanding our own rhythms and the rhythms of the world around us and using that knowledge to make choices that lead to better performance, better relationships, and ultimately a better life.
Beautifully said. It's about being more intentional, more strategic, and ultimately more in tune with ourselves, I think. And on that note, if you are ready to unlock the power of timing in your own life, I highly recommend you check out Daniel Pink's When. It's a great read, really practical insights. It can really make a difference. So until next time, thanks for joining us for another deep dive